Look at this number, 10,935. That is the depth, in meters, of the Challenger Deep, the lowest point on the surface of this planet, below sea level by nearly 11 kilometers. If you place Mount Everest on the floor of the Challenger Deep, its summit would still sit more than 2 kilometers underwater. If you fell into it, you would not reach the bottom for over an hour. And the pressure waiting for you when you arrive would be 1,086 times the atmospheric pressure you are sitting in right now, the equivalent of 8 tons pressing down on every square inch of your body. Only 27 people have ever been to the Challenger Deep. 12 people have walked on the moon. The deepest place on Earth is less visited than the surface of another world, and what it contains is stranger than anything we found up there. The Mariana Trench is not a hole, it is a scar, a 2,550 long crescent-shaped wound in the floor of the Western Pacific, formed where the Pacific Plate, one of the oldest, densest slabs of oceanic crust on Earth, approximately 170 million years old, slides beneath the Mariana Plate and descends into the mantle at roughly 2 to 3 inches per year. The older and denser a plate is, the deeper it sinks. The Pacific Plate is both. The trench has been deepening for 50 to 60 million years. It is still deepening now. This is not the deepest trench because it is a geological anomaly. It is the deepest trench because it marks the subduction of the oldest plate on Earth into the planet's interior. And everything about what happens at the bottom of it follows from that single, enormous, ongoing fact. The Mariana Trench is not the exception to how the planet works. It is where you can see most clearly how the planet works. And what it is doing down there is not what most people expect. Begin with the descent, because the descent is where normal stops. At 200 meters, sunlight disappears. At 1,000 meters, the pressure is 100 times atmospheric. At 4,000 meters, you have reached the average depth of the global ocean floor, and you are still less than halfway to the Challenger Deep. The walls of the trench descend steeply, studded with cliffs and ridges, scarred by underwater avalanches, still reshaping the bottom. The floor itself is not flat. Vescovo's 2019 expedition found plains, ridges, and elevated features at the very bottom that no previous survey had detected. The temperature at the Challenger Deep is between 1 and 4 degrees Celsius. Not frozen, the pressure is too high for ice to form. The hydrophone researchers deployed in 2015 were full within 23 days. Even at nearly 11 kilometers depth, the ocean floor is not quiet. The trench records the seismic noise of the Pacific Plate still moving, still sinking, still generating the earthquakes and tsunamis that cross the Pacific from this convergence zone. The Hadal snailfish, translucent, scaleless, gelatinous, at 8,336 meters. Xenophyophores, single-celled organisms the size of dinner plates, the largest individual cells on Earth, feeding on sediment at the very bottom. Amphipods in densities that surprised every expedition that reached them, thriving in a zone biologists once considered too hostile for complex life. Sea cucumbers, polychaete worms, microbial mats carpet the sediment. A 2010 mud sample from Challenger Deep contained approximately 200 distinct species of microorganism. In 1960, Jacques Picard and Don Walsh reached the bottom of the Challenger Deep in the Bathyscaphe Trieste. They observed a flatfish. This was, at the time, a landmark moment, proof that vertebrate life existed at the deepest point on Earth. The fish was there, in conditions that should have been impossible for it, doing what fish do. science updated its models. In 2019, Victor Vescovo reached the deepest point ever recorded in a manned vehicle. He found a plastic bag. Not just microplastics, which have been detected in sediment samples from Challenger Deep since at least 2018, but a whole plastic bag visible on the seafloor at approximately 10,928 meters. A discarded piece of human infrastructure drifting down through 11 kilometers of ocean, settling on the deepest surface of the planet. The trench that took 50 million years to form and 150 years of human effort to reach has been reached, also, by a plastic bag that nobody sent. Here is the detail that does not leave you. The Mariana Trench acts as a sediment trap. Researchers have measured persistent organic pollutants in amphipods from Challenger Deep at levels comparable to those found in animals from the most heavily contaminated river systems on Earth. The deepest ecosystem on the planet is contaminated, not at the surface, but at the bottom by material that originated at the surface and sank. The good news is that the amphipods appear to be fine. The bad news is that we are not sure why, and we are fairly sure we should be more concerned about this than we currently are. Subduction zones, like the Mariana Trench, are where surface material, oceanic crust, sediment, and seawater are carried into the mantle. Researchers studying the chemistry of rocks from the trench walls have found evidence that this subducted material cycles back up through volcanic activity, contributing to the chemical composition of the atmosphere and ocean over geological time. The trench is not just a passive scar. It is an active component of the planetary carbon cycle, the water cycle, and the long-term chemical regulation of Earth's surface conditions. Here is the what if. Researchers at the University of Hawaii studying serpentine mud volcanoes near the Mariana Trench have proposed that similar structures, where subducting plates release fluids that react with mantle rock to produce hydrogen and methane, may have provided the chemical conditions for the origin of life on Earth. Which means the Mariana Trench may not just be the deepest place on Earth. It may be a living model of the conditions that produce life, and a record of everything that has happened to the planet's surface since. The deepest scar contains the oldest story. The trench is 2,550 kilometers long. It has been forming for 50 million years. It is the product of two tectonic plates meeting at 2 inches per year, a process so slow it is invisible in any human lifetime, producing something so large it cannot be seen from any single point. And at the bottom of it, in the dark, under 8 tons of pressure per square inch, a flatfish, a plastic bag, 200 species of microorganisms in a handful of mud. An ecosystem no one expected, running chemistry we are only beginning to read, in a place we have visited 27 times. We have sent 12 people to the moon and 27 to the Challenger Deep. The moon is 384,000 kilometers away. The Challenger Deep is 11 kilometers straight down. We are, by any measure, much better at going out than going in. The deepest place on Earth has been there for 50 million years. It will still be there long after the plastic bag has dissolved. The question is, what else is down there that we have not yet thought to ask about? But if the Mariana Trench is an active component of the planetary carbon cycle, a possible analogue for the origin of life and an unexplored ecosystem in which every expedition returns something that was not in the scientific record before, what is the planet doing at its own deepest point that we have not yet descended far enough to see? Because the Challenger Deep has been visited 27 times, but the Mariana Trench is 2,550 kilometers long. Most of it has never had a submersible in it. Most of the creatures living in it have never been catalogued. The deepest place on Earth is not a fixed point. It is a process. And the process has not finished.